The Sopranos is easily one of the most influential TV shows that has ever existed in the history of ever. Without The Sopranos, television as we know it would be in a much different, very likely much worse state than it is now. Let me explain why. The Sopranos is a serial crime drama slash black comedy that centers around the life of Tony Soprano, a New Jersey mafia boss who attends therapy in an attempt to fix his numerous psychological issues. Right off the bat, the concept of this show is far different than the ones it aired alongside with. Before The Sopranos, television was a much more laid-back, happy place than the more honest portrayals we see on TV now. Millions of viewers tune into lighter-toned, episodic TV shows like Full House, The Cosby Show, which is not aged poorly, and Seinfeld. Viewers weren't really expected to think when watching these shows. Television as a creative medium was essentially just seen as an output for shows you could watch with the whole family. For God's sake, Seinfeld was literally branded as a show about nothing, and it was the most popular TV show ever made. These shows also followed the traditional episodic format common on television, where each episode followed its own self-contained plot and story beats without following over to the next episode. The only other TV shows that really did that were soap operas, and those things sucked. However, in 1999, all of that would change when HBO greenlit one of the greatest TV shows ever made, The Sopranos. As I mentioned before, The Sopranos focuses on Tony Soprano and his battle with his steadily declining mental health, having to balance both family issues and issues with the mob, constantly fighting for respect and power on both sides. The show was not only revolutionary for its time, following a consistent episode-to-episode story while also containing incredibly dark subject matter, but it was also extremely well executed, with amazing writing, great acting, and a budget that gave the show a feeling like you were watching a movie instead of a TV show. That was also one of the main appeals of the show too. It felt like you were tuning in to watch a movie every single night. Now, I've covered most of the technical aspects of why this show was such a rating success, but let's talk about the show itself, mainly about how absolutely filthy it is. The show was broadcast on the premium cable network HBO, which made it free from any FCC regulations that other popular public shows at the time were restricted to. Because of this, The Sopranos had the ability to essentially do whatever it wanted, making many aspects of the show impossible to air on regular television. Every episode of the show is chock full of nudity, swearing, violence, drug usage, intercourse. If you tried making a TV edit for this show, it'd be like 2 minutes. Here's just a taste of how awesome this show is.
Hey, Andy! Oh, I need your help.
What?
Those they play that music so loud.
Now that's not nice. I work hard all day to pay for this 6,000 square foot house, big screen TVs, food on the table, video games, all kinds of scooters and bicycles, Columbia University, and for what? To come home to this?
Sucks to be you.
Charles Pagano.
How the do you know that?
He says he was your first.
Don't with me. Who you been talking to?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
The Sopranos pushed boundaries on what was acceptable to air on television, not only in terms of its swearing and violence and all that, but also in terms of its storylines and character actions. Tony Soprano was essentially the antagonist of the show, making him one of television's most prolific anti-heroes. In one episode of the show, Tony Soprano spots an associate who ratted him out to the cops many years ago, who he later murders in cold blood. This may seem like a pretty standard plot point now, but back in the day, HBO was legitimately worried that this would make Tony Soprano completely unlikable and irredeemable to the audience. Keep in mind, this was only like the 5th episode of season 1, so it wasn't like they had a huge audience up to this point. Despite this, the writers went along with Tony being a big meanie head to this rat, and it ended up paying dividends in the long run, not just in this show, but in television as a whole too. These actions made Tony Soprano an interesting character to root for. On the one hand, he's the worst human being to ever exist. He's a murderer, has anger issues, he lets his emotions get the best of him, and he's also a massive racist too. He also cheats on his wife constantly, despite proclaiming that he's a strict Catholic. But despite this, we're given many personal details and struggles of his personal life that make him relatable and easy to sympathize with, causing that moral dilemma in viewers' minds to make them think, wait, should I really be rooting for this guy? It's not just Tony Soprano either. Every single character in the show is given their own set of goals, personalities, and good traits along with bad ones, making them equally interesting to watch grow, or in other cases, devolve, making the show even more fun to come back to. The show is also able to juggle incredibly dark subject matter like declining mental health and murder brilliantly, able to treat it with the seriousness that it deserves while also balancing comedy into the mix so that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yet another one of the reasons why the show has made such a lasting impact. Thanks to the wild success of The Sopranos, television as a medium has become far more respected, with numerous TV shows afterwards following in The Sopranos' footsteps by dealing with dark subject matter while also having a serialized structure. Most notably, TV shows like Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, with the creator of the latter going on record saying, "Without Tony Soprano, there would be no Walter White." The Sopranos revolutionized the format into portraying a much more honest depiction of humanity, paving the way for some of the greatest TV shows ever, like the aforementioned Breaking Bad. The Sopranos also kickstarted the trend of anti-heroes becoming more and more common throughout both television and media as a whole, turning protagonists into much more complex characters and making them more fun and interesting to watch. Okay, that's the end of it. Thank you for watching. I love you. Bye.